with the talk. The talk concerns biblical proofs that the lost in tribes are in Western nations amongst Western peoples. We have Brit-Am, Hebrew nations. That is our movement. That's what we call our movement. Brit-Am, Hebrew awareness. Hebrew awareness is obvious. We want people to be aware of their ancestry. So we don't have any agenda beyond that. We don't really have any plans, any directions for people beyond that, beyond them being aware of who they are, of their ancestry. We believe that once this is established, once this is known of and recognized and internalized and spread and generally accepted, the Almighty will show us how to go further from that. A dynamism of its own will probably be established. And we don't have to know any more than we know at the present. We know the lost in tribes amongst Western nations. That is a message we have to get through, get it over to people. Even those who believe in it have to know it better, to be more internally convinced of it. And there should be more of them. So at the moment, we're going to just go through a few general proofs. How you going, Sylvia? How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. Someone just came to my door.
In there, you should say hello to Sylvia.
Hi.
Yishai.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Yishai. How are you doing?
Very good.
It's so good to see you.
Okay, so we'll start off in a minute. We're going to go give general proofs of lost in tribes where they are. And a lot of you already know it quite well, but it's worth going back over it. And so that's what we'll do to start off with. We have proofs of lost in tribes amongst Western nations. We have proofs of lost in tribes amongst Western nations and biblical proofs. And the biblical proofs, for the sake of convenience, we divide them up into sections. Some proofs speak of geography. The lost in tribes are in the ends of the earth. That is the geographical extremities when the earth is viewed from Jerusalem, taking Jerusalem as the center of the world. And there are numerous biblical verses describing the lost 10 tribes in the end times as being at the extremities of the earth. And these verses speak of Israel in the end times being at the extremities of the earth. And we identify Israel in these cases, according to the context, as pertaining lost 10 tribes. In many instances, this is confirmed by biblical, or not by biblical, but Talmudical, by rabbinical sources who also mention this. This is referring to lost 10 tribes. So that helps us, because people come along and contest that it could have applied to anyone. It could apply to Jews. It could apply to Israel in other circumstances. So when we show that we're not alone, that people greater than us also consider that they belong to, this is referring to the lost 10 tribes at the ends of the earth. This is important. The ends of the earth are geographical extremities. We identify the lost 10 tribes with peoples from Western areas. And the offshoots overseas. So, but if you take it on a map, if you look at it on a map, they are at the ends of the earth. They are the geographical extremities of the earth. The land of Israel is considered the center of the earth. Ezekiel refers to the land of Israel as the tabor haaretz, the button of the belly button, literally the belly button. How do you say belly button in English? In polite English, there's no word for it, isn't there?
Navel.
Navel, the navel of the earth, yeah. And
at least it's not the armpit.
the center. And
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so that is lost in tribes at the ends of the earth. The ends of the earth are geographical extremities. You look at a map, you see the peoples where lost in tribes are found. Ireland, incidentally, Ireland was once referred to at the ends of the earth. That is one of the 4 names of Ireland, end of the earth. They call themselves end of the earth. Also, England was referred to the ends of the earth. And in French, England, the word for England is Angleterre, which literally does mean end of the earth. And Abarbanel, a commentator on the Bible, rabbinical commentator on the Bible, also mentioned that, the ends of the earth. Also, Scandinavia is at the ends of the earth. All the Western nations, Holland, Belgium, France, all those areas where we don't say that everyone in those countries is descendant of Western tribes. We send those when the Western tribes are founded. That's where they have to be looked for, and there are a good portion of the people in that region, not necessarily the majority, in some cases the majority, in some others possibly the minority, but they are there. That is where they are found according to the Bible. That is a beginning. That is what we have to start with. And also where Australia, New Zealand, also at the ends of the earth. In other words, you can't really get much more at the ends of the earth than them. Also South Africa, North America is also at the ends of the earth. So this is a proof. We'll come back to this. Also that they had to be, a good portion of them had to be in the Isles. This was also found in the Bible. Also connected to the lost 10 tribes according to different sources. The Isles of the Sea, the islands. And this is what we have. And there were also peninsulas and coasts to be associated with Tarshish, the Atlantic Ocean area. See Isaiah 69. They returned from via the ships of Tarshish and the Tarshish area. Tarshish in classical literature, also in rabbinical commentators, Tarshish is associated with the Atlantic Ocean. So they were all returned from the Atlantic Ocean area. So that is quite specific. There aren't that many countries around there, or there are, but we're honing it down. It's not all over the world or anything anymore. They also had to be in the western location. Isaiah 24:14, Hosea 1:10 in the west. Lost 10 tribes will be in the west. And another point is that all of these directions, all of these locations, logically, they have to refer to the same people. That each and every proof has to be also applicable to each and every one. So that they have to be applicable at one and the same time. For instance, it says the ends of the earth. You said the ends of the earth means the countries we mentioned. People say it could also mean Japan, and it could also mean Siberia. So we say that it has to everything has to come together. You have the Siberia, Japan, and other places. They are not related to the others, and they do not have the other criteria applying to them. Another point is that they should be the major area of the lost in tribes should be to the north and the west of the land of Israel. See Isaiah 49:12. And again in the northland, Jeremiah 3:18, Jeremiah 3:31, 31:6-10, and also it mentions in Isaiah 49:12 that the lost in tribes will be in the land of Sinim. It mentions the north, the west, north and west, in the land of the Sinim. The land of Sinim we take to be Australia, and we have proofs concerning this, also from biblical codes and elsewhere. And it stands to reason that the population of Australia are related to peoples in northwest Europe. They came from there, and that if peoples in northwest Europe are descend from lost in tribes, so too should their relations, their close relations, not that long ago. In Australia and New Zealand, they should also apply to them, as it also applies to people in North America. Another point we mentioned that it says it should be in the west, it should be there, it also should be at the ends of the earth. Another point that, as we said, Siberia is also at the ends of the earth, but it should be in Atzilea, in Hebrew, Atzilea, in the best places, not only at the ends of the earth, but the places with the most salubrious climates, the most healthy climates, the most invigorating climates. Isaiah 41:9. So that is another point. We need all these points to come together. And again, in Obadiah, the book of Obadiah 1:20, it says the lost 10 tribes will be in the land of Zarephath, according to the Hebrew. Zarephath. Zarephath, see Obadiah 1:20, and as we explained, the Hebrew translation, according to the commentator, in accordance with the commentary of Rashi, who is considered the greatest rabbinical commentator who ever lived, and he says Zarephath incidentally is spoken Hebrew, Zarephath means France. It's a word for France. And Zarephath said this means the land of France. And he says that the lost 10 tribes went there. They went to Zarephath, the land that is known as France. He says it expressly. And the other commentators saying the same. And the simple meaning of the passage also says that in Hebrew it refers to the this first exile, Zarephath, which are in Zarephath, the first exile which are in France. And this first exile, according to the commentators, means the first exile was the exile of the 10 tribes of Israel. Just to remind you, those 10 tribes were together with Judah. The 12 tribes were together in the land of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel, they divided into 2 sections. At the death of King Solomon, they separated into 2 different kingdoms. About, according to conventional dating, about 200 years after they separated, actually less than that, but good enough. 200 years, the Assyrians came down, conquered the northern kingdom and took all of them into exile. Okay? And they disappeared. They did not return. And every settlement they had was destroyed according to archaeological findings. As the Bible says that they were all taken away, and so they were. And they were all taken away and did not return. Less than 200 years after that, the Assyrians were replaced by the Babylonians. The Babylonians came down and they conquered Judah, which remained. Judah was comprised of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, along with representative minorities from all of the other tribes. Judah too and they were the Jewish people. They were the forerunners of the Jewish people. And they were taken away by the Babylonians into Babylon in stages. And they were in Babylon for about 70 years, after which Cyrus, the king of Persia, conquered Babylon and allowed the Jews to return, and they began to do so. That was also the beginning of the Jewish diaspora and the Jewish people as we know them. And they existed there, the Jews of today, whereas the majority of the Israelites disappeared. So, the first exile was the exile of the 10 tribes of Israel. And the book of Obadiah speaks of this first exile, which are in Zarephath. Zarephath, according to Rashi, according to rabbinical tradition, and also spoken Hebrew, Zarephath means the land of France. Abarbanel says by Zarephath he includes England because he says that at one stage they were joined together in one kingdom, and when he says one, it means the other. But so that too is worth noting. So, and Zarephath, this direction of Zarephath has to be taken in conjunction in accordance with all the other listed names that we mentioned. The isles of the sea, the ends of the earth, the west and the north from the land of Israel, and everything else that was included. As we said, and they always have to tie up with each other. They all one what applies to one must apply to the other. In other words, if the lost 10 tribes are both in the west and the north, they must be in the northwest area. Or those who are in the west must be related to those in the north. That the verses must apply to all of them or to different parts of them in such a way that what is applied to the others applies to this one. Also, we also have the dolmens. The dolmens in Jeremiah 31:12 speaks of a pathway of megalithic monuments that in the end times we will be able to show the pathway of migration that the lost 10 tribes took to get to where they are. And this is Jeremiah exhorts, he cries out from the book, look to the way you went in. Notice these monuments. Notice what has been put up, which shows the way you went in, and return. So this is we ourselves are not taking this seriously enough. No one takes it seriously enough, but it's there in black and white. Jeremiah is calling upon us to be more serious about concerning the trail of the dolmens. The trail of the dolmens is proof that the lost 10 tribes went from the land of Israel to those areas. And there is such a dolmen trail, as archaeologists admit. speak about. Only they give it dates 10,000 BCE. I know way back in the never, which is wrong. And it wasn't like that in the past. It's only recently because now they use radiocarbon dating and so on, which apparently is mistaken. It's misleading them. And we should be more serious about talking on this matter. At all events, that is a proof, and in addition to these geographically recognizable symbols, that is a bald-headed eagle, symbol of the USA, and Micah 1:16 implies that this will be a symbol of the 10 tribes in the places of exile. Also, the lion and the unicorn are symbols of Israel in the end times. Israel is a mighty power, that is, the lion and the unicorn are symbols of Britain. See Numbers 24:7-9. We have historical behavior that they will rule over other people, so will be recognizable as a Brit-Am. Brit-Am, Isaiah 42:6, 49:8. Brit-Am meaning a covenant of the peoples, also similar to the words Brit-Am. Brit-Am, in some cases in the early medieval times, is known as Brit-Ami as well as Brit-Am. And it literally means the covenant of the people. And that would be the dominant world power, Numbers 24:7-9, Micah 5:7-9. The battle axe of the Almighty, that's the policeman of the globe, a task which Britain has took on itself in the past. Britain, after having helped begin the slave trade, Britain stopped it, made it illegal. And Britain used its navy and its force and to stop the international slave trade. The British Navy lost 2,000 men fighting slave traders, and it also compensated slave traders in the West Indies to get them to stop using slaves. And it took debts, it took loans to do this, and only recently have they finished paying off that debt. And so Britain did do much to stop the slave trade, and Britain has been despite faults and peccadillos and all kinds of problems, on the whole, Britain has been a just nation. And has been a policeman of the globe, and so too has the USA. Even now, America is a policeman of the globe. That is, America is a policeman of the globe. America, relative to other nations, if something happens in any place, one country is massacring the inhabitants of another, or in one country certain peoples are being oppressed, being wiped out by each other, the nations that will intervene are the USA, the UK, France, and it's unlikely to be anyone else. They are the ones who are expected to intervene if anything happens, if intervention is needed, and they may be considered the policemen of the globe to some degree. And it was prophesied that that is what they would be, that they would be considered the battle axe of the Almighty. And there are other points that would defeat Edom, which we identify with Germany and Europe. See Obadiah 1:18, Ezekiel 25:14. There will be a light for the Gentiles, a civilizing influence, a humanizing element amongst the peoples of the earth. And they would be associated with Gomer. That is, they would have a historical association with the Celtic and Germanic speaking peoples, and they will have migrated alongside them or as part of them. Even though these peoples have different origins, they are from Gomer, the son of Noah, the son of Japheth, the son of Noah, not Semitic. There was a period in history when the lost 10 tribes were associated with them, moved with them, and were influenced by them, and also had their influence upon them. And this is spoken about in the book of Hosea, especially chapter 1 of Hosea, where it speaks of the lost 10 tribes as the sons of Hosea and a loose woman called Gomer. And these women are not Judah. It expressly excludes Judah from the equation. It says in 1:7, it says this is not Judah. Judah has another trait, another task. It's set aside. This is talking about the 10 tribes. It excludes Judah expressly in the book of Hosea. It says we're talking, and therefore it's talking about the 10 tribes of Israel. And he calls one of them, they will not be called my people. You will be divorced. Also, Jeremiah mentions the 10 tribes being divorced. They will be cut off. They will be separated from the people of Israel as we know them. The Talmud also speaks of this as if their spiritual association, their spiritual obligations will be temporarily suspended. To say 2,000 years is a long time to have for a temporary suspension. That is how we understand it. That is what we have. And that is what the Bible says. We go according to the Bible. We do not write the Bible. We can interpret it in different ways, but there are limitations. You can only go so far. You have to stick to what it says, and this is what it is saying. That the Gomer in the book of Hosea, Gomer will be associated with the 10 tribes of Israel in the end times. And this is what we have. And the Gomer will be associated with 10 tribes in their places of exile. And Gomer, according to the Bible, according to different traditions, Gomer was also a son of Japheth, the son of Noah. And he gave rise to the Germanic and Celtic peoples. He's going over biblical proofs. The proofs of the lost in tribes are amongst Western nations. We also have another proofs, attributes, and the names in historical, the giant names of the peoples concerned. The Celts, the so-called Celtic peoples, Celtic peoples of a certain type of culture that was found in Scotland and England before the Anglo-Saxons conquered it, in Wales, in Ireland, and also before then in France, reaching up into Belgium. And beyond it, that was known as the Celtic areas, people of Celtic culture, they spoke the Celtic languages. Incidentally, the Welsh and Irish have infusion of Hebraic elements, linguistic elements, strong linguistic elements, also Gaelic, and in addition to that, they did not call themselves Celts, they called themselves Hiberni. They call themselves names that mean Hebrew. They call themselves Hebrews. That was the name they applied to themselves. And this was prophesied. It was prophesied. Abraham was prophesied that in him and his sons would the peoples be named, and they were named so. Abraham the Hebrew. So we find the name Hebrews applied to these people. We also have the name Isaac. In Isaac will your seed be called. Abraham was blessed. We find the name Isaac or permutations of the name Isaac, such as Zoach, Isaac, and so on, applied to the Ishkuzas. Sakasen applied to the peoples, the Scythian peoples, and after that to a portion of the Germanic peoples who invaded England, the Saxons. And they were named after Isaac. And we have Jacob, the name Jacob also applied to the 10 tribes. We have the Union Jack. You have the name Yankee. The name Yankee is a permutation in Yiddish. Yankee is a nickname for someone called Jacob. There's another name for Jacob, another way of pronouncing Jacob. Yankov. So Yankee is a name applied to the people from North America. Also Jock, which is short for Jacob, is a name applied to someone from Scotland. Also, you have Jacob, you have Jacques, someone applied to, meaning Jacob, also applied to someone from France. They have this name Jacob in use. And also have the name Israel. Israel, we have in Scottish and Irish tradition, amongst their several traditions, they have one of their further back ancestors was named Yisro. Yisro is another form of the name Israel. So this name was used by them. And in addition to that, we have Joseph, the name Joseph being used 4 different peoples. G.I. Joes was in the name, nickname of American soldiers, G.I. Joes. And Joseph was known as a bull. There's a Deuteronomy 33:17. We have the nickname John Bull. It's a nickname for England, similar to Uncle Sam in America. In England, they have John Bull in cartoons and so on. And Bull is a name given to Joseph. And also Joseph was referred to as a bull calf. In Jeremiah 31:18, he refers to Ephraim as a bull calf. Jeremiah 31:18 refers to Ephraim, that is Ephraim, the 2 sons of Joseph were Ephraim and Manasseh, but the foremost one was Ephraim, and we find Ephraim to be prominent amongst the British, whereas Manasseh is more dominant amongst the Americans, even though you find elements from both brothers amongst all the peoples. And in Hebrew, the name bull calf is Egel. Egel in Hebrew, and also in Yiddish Hebrew, can be pronounced as angle. Angle. And angle, the name angle was that of the Angles and Saxons. If they gave their name to England, the Angles and Saxons together invaded what became England. And apparently the Angles were the dominant party, and they gave their name to the whole country. England is actually derived from the word Angleland. The Angles, not only is Angle another way of pronouncing Egel Bulka, but on the continent, the Angles were also known as Egel, which is the actual Hebrew word. In other words, Bulka in Hebrew. So we have the names. So this is fulfills the prophecies. And in addition to that, we have in the book of Genesis and also in Numbers, we have names of 70 sons of Jacob, the sons and the grandsons of Jacob went down to Egypt. There are 70 of them altogether. After that, they came up out of Egypt, and there's a census given in the Bible, in the book of Numbers, of these people when they come up out of Egypt, the book of Numbers, and there are 70 of them. There are 70 of these peoples coming up out of Egypt, and these names, these clan names, are found amongst peoples who settled in Western Europe. So the names, we can trace them by their names. This has been described in our book, The Tribes. We also have characteristics of the peoples. The Ephraim was associated with nobility. Manasseh was associated with representative democracy, as we have shown in his analysis to the very name Manasseh in Hebrew, according to Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, about 200 years ago. And this was not something that he didn't know anything about the lost tribes. He wasn't talking about the lost tribes. He was taking the Bible and analyzing the Bible and telling us what it means according to the text. He wasn't concerned how it applies today. He wasn't looking for anything. He was just taking the text and analyzing it and giving us his analysis. And it comes out from his analysis that the name Manasseh, and every name Manasseh in Hebrew, connotes responsible representation. And that is a major principle of the American Constitution, of the American being of the USA, what it is, responsible representation, that the people should be able to represent themselves as representatives, and the representatives should be responsible to them, not imposable from outside. That is why they had the American Revolution. That is what has guided them and is a guiding principle even now. The American Constitution is very, very important in American thought, American political thought, American public thought, American attitudes, much more than it is in other countries. Much more than the Constitution is important in other countries. The American Constitution is very important to the Americans because it embodies this national principle. Also, we have shown the names. We have shown the name America is a derivation from the word Machia. after Machir, the seventh-born son of Manasseh. It permutated to America, became, and this America, name America, was given to America. And so America is named after the firstborn son of Manasseh. And the very name Machir, amongst its other meanings, also connotes the principle of capitalism, of selling, buying, Machir in Hebrew. And this is the essence of America today. As if it couldn't have chosen something better. I mean, divine providence chose it. But this is a proof. I mean, you should know more about this. Well, so other things concern individual tribes. You said Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea in the Hebrew. Zebulun would dwell on the shores of the sea. On the shores of the sea, Genesis 49:13. And we find people, Zebulun the people of Zebulun, amongst different tribes who settled in what is now. Actually, they settled a bit to the north in Friesland, but from there they moved to what is now Holland, what is now the Netherlands, after they pushed back the sea, and they settled there. And 2/3 of that country is either below sea level, has been reclaimed from sea land, or it is subject to inundation, to flooding by the sea, and it needs protection, needs walls around it to keep the sea out. Literally speaking, it is on the shores of the sea. And if you go there, where 2/3 of the population live, if you buy a house, I don't know, you're building there, you go down a couple of feet, you come to sea sand. It's built on the sea sand. Not ordinary dirt, sea sand. It's what the Zebulun is built upon. On the shores of the sea, it is built on the shores of the sea. It's the only country in the world to which this applies. And it is one place where we find the name Zebulun Goy applied to a portion of the settlers who lived there, according to Ptolemy. Ptolemy wasn't a Jew. He wasn't a Christian. He was a pagan. He wrote about 100 CE, but he used old pagan sources from the Phoenicians before then, 300, 400, 500, 600 years before him. And he wrote down these names, and we use these names to show the Israelites settling in certain areas. And he wasn't a prejudiced party. He couldn't care less about, as far as we know, about the Bible. What the Bible says, he almost certainly probably didn't know, or didn't know very much about it. He never mentions it in his writings. We have his writings, and you can go to a library. You can also get his maps, and maps are drawn up later based on his descriptions. You can look at the names and see these names similar to Hebrew names. That's what we did. And we described this in the book of Tribes, and we only did it at a superficial level. We went over it, wrote it down, and so on. Someone really wanted to go into it deeply, couldn't get much more out of it. And we have tried that, and we've seen that it could go very, very much more seriously, but it's there. We have shown that as a source it is there, and it works, as we've shown in other sources. So that is what we have on a rough overall surface, superficial level. I'll go into some of the sources with more detail, quoting some verses. Does anyone wish at the moment to make any comments at the moment?
Here, I was thinking about when you said the name Jack is prevalent in English, and I thought of the Mother Goose rhymes that have a little Jack Horner sat in the corner, a house that Jack built. Jack Sprat could eat no fat. Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack be nimble. Jack and Jill. Those are the ones that came to mind. So,
yeah,
okay.
Jacob.
Okay.
Also, I was wondering about the word marketing. Is marketing, does that come from Makir?
It could do. It could do. I never thought of that. I'll have to look it up. That's an idea. Marketing, Machir. It could be connected.
Yeah. The R and the K would be transposed, but that happens.
But also the thing is that a lot of words both in English and in northern countries, actually in all European tongues, you have a lot of Hebrew words, and there must have been all kinds of associations with the Hebrews in ancient times. And people are not aware of it so much because mainly because of linguistics, of people who traced languages. In the past, they were prejudiced against Semitics, against the Jews and Hebrews, and they didn't know. They didn't know Hebrew. When they knew Hebrew, like back in the 1700s, 1800s, and so on, early 1800s, then you find a lot of scholars who knew Hebrew, and then they found a lot of associations with the Hebrews, with Hebrew letters. After they stopped learning Hebrew, and they concentrated more on European countries, so they didn't notice them anymore. As if to say, the prejudice against them, they put it out of their mind. But what I'm saying, the principle that you can get associations with Hebrew letters, with Hebrew languages, with the Hebrew language amongst all European languages. English has got a lot, and I even think that English, even the psychology of English is similar to that of Hebrew, and that even when they've used foreign words for certain things, borrowed foreign words for certain things, and these words at Hebrew origins, it was some type of subconscious national instinct that was bringing them to do this. But that's a different point. These are abstract idea, and we don't really need it. We don't really need it because we have a lot of proofs that are black and white straight there, and we don't have to go into metaphysics that many people may not feel, may not relate to. Especially when we have simple, straightforward proofs on this matter. But that's an idea. Market, we'll look at it. Maybe market is related to machia. Machia in Hebrew, you have a word machia with a het, meaning price. Machia means more selling, the principle of selling. And if you wanted to, in Hebrew you don't really have abstract words. You have to invent them. You have to invent them from existing verbs. For instance, in Hebrew, you have the word for capitalism is hon. Hon, from a root, hon means money, related to mammon, money. Also, money is related to the Hebrew word to number things out, or coinage. But so the Hebrew in Hebrew, the word for capitalism is hon, meaning capital, or implying capital, but actually machir would be more suitable from a biblical point of view, also a linguistic point of view. In other words, machir in Hebrew could well imply capitalism as a principle. And machir, capitalism, is a guiding principle of America, and there are people who say that without capitalism, American form of democracy couldn't work. And America is, in principle, the major capitalist nation. All the others have tendencies to state involvement, for state ownership, whereas in America it's more free, more of an open market. And that is part of their guiding principle. And that is, we just go through a few points here. Go through what we said in the beginning. Ends of the earth, Isaiah 24 says, therefore glorify the Lord in the dawning light. That is in the fires, in the name of the Lord God of Israel, in the coastlands, in the isles of the sea, in the islands of the sea. From the ends of the earth we have heard songs, glory to the righteous. And here we have a connection to the ends of the earth and the God of Israel and the isles of the sea. And the dawning, the fires, in the fires, the ancient Celts, ancient inhabitants of Brit-Am used to light fires on the hillsides, on top of the hillsides, to signal to themselves and for other reasons. And they were known, that's what they were known of. Sailors who sailed out of the sea would look for the fires on the top of the hills. And so this was a sign of identification for Britain. And he refers to it. And he says in Isaiah 24, Verse 15, you have increased the nation, you have glorified, you had expanded it to the ends of the earth. We are using mainly the King James Version, or a variety of them, because they are usually closer to the Hebrew original, literal rendering of the text. Other versions of the Bible are also good, also give something of the meaning, but they tend to stray away not to stress the literal meaning, which is also important to us. And he says in Isaiah 41, 8-9, you Israel are my servant, Jacob whom I have chosen, the descendants of Abraham my friend. You whom I have taken from the ends of the earth associated with Abraham, the seed of Abraham, called from his father's regions, and said to you, my servant, I have chosen you, have not cast you away. Still referring to lost 10 tribes who have not been cast away, even though elsewhere they're described as cast away. He's referring here to a period when they shall be come back or be enticed to return. And he says in Isaiah 49:6, is it a small thing for you they should be my servant? To raise up the tribes of Jacob, talking about the tribes of Jacob. Jacob was another name for yourself. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the forefathers of the Israelite nation. Jacob was renamed Israel. And he says to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore the preserved ones of Israel. I'll give you as a light to the Gentiles. The light to the Gentiles, that was one of the purposes, according to our understanding, according to the biblical text and rabbinical thought and other sources, the purpose of lost in tribes to be exiled was that they should go down to the level of the nations, to go down to the level of the Gentiles. Rabbi Moshe David Valley in the 1700s wrote of this. He wrote it. We saw it after we'd already written it up, but he confirms that we're on the right track. He says that the 10 tribes, incidentally, what we saw, we got this idea from the Bible, from biblical hints and references, and that others had written of it before us only shows us that we are going in the right way. It's a strong indication. And all events, he says that Joseph had to come down to the level of the Gentiles, to be assimilated amongst the Gentiles in order to elevate himself, and in the process to elevate the rest of the nations with him, to bring them up, to draw them upwards. And that is what they have done, relatively speaking. The USA, even now, is in effect pacifies the earth, makes the people behave themselves, promotes democracy, promotes principles of dignity of man, individual rights, and so on, even though here and there they have to bend the rules a bit according to local circumstances. Nevertheless, that is what they're known for, that is their principles, that is what they put forward to justify what they're doing. It is a guiding light for them. And this cannot be said of other peoples. So from that point alone, lost in tribes have to be looked for amongst them.
I do have a question.
Okay.
In terms of antiquity, when, was there a designated place for the four corners of the earth?
When was there what? Can you say that again, please?
A designated place for each of the four corners of the earth.
A designated place? I'll read you what it says, the four corners of the earth. It doesn't say the four corners of the earth. It says Katzei Aretz. In Hebrew, the Katzei Aretz means the ends of the earth.
The ends of the earth, okay.
It says the ends of the earth, but it also says, the North Country a few times. First of all, get the principle that it applies in one place, it has to apply to another. So it says the North Country a few times. Also,
Right.
It says the West quite often. It says the North and the West somewhere else. Another place it says the North and the West, and the land of Sinim, which we identify with New Zealand and Australia. And in one other place it says the North, the West, the North, the West, and the East and the South. So we take all of these indications and we find how it fits the reality. The reality is that the peoples we identify as the lost 10 tribes The majority of them are to the west of the land of Israel, and to the north and the west of the land of Israel. And you have some of them to the south and the east, that is in Australia and New Zealand, and also some of them to the south and South Africa. But most of them are to the north and to the west, that is North America and Western Europe. And so this fits the reality. Because that is what that is the weight, the relative weight the Bible seems to give to each of the places, based on the number of references it has to the different directions. Is that acceptable, Guy? Reasonable?
Reasonable.
Okay. And he says, he says, the ships of Tarshish, surely the isles shall wait for me. The ships of Tarshish shall come first to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, to the name of the Lord your God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. Isaiah 69, that's talking about the end times, and is referring to the ships of Tarshish. As we said, Tarshish represents Atlantic Ocean. I should more or less give us qualify this. Tarshish actually was an area near Gibraltar. Gibraltar, there was a city, Tarsis in Phoenician, Tartisos in Assyrian inscriptions, also in Greek. And that is associated with Tarshish. Also, there's a list in Ezekiel speaks about trade with Tarshish, and he speaks of tin and silver and other metals obtained from Tarshish, and that area was very big in those metals for hundreds of years. In addition to that, Tarshish seems to be applied in Isaiah and also in other texts, also in the Talmud, with the sea in general. Talmud says in one passage that Tarshish means the sea. According to a rabbinical commentary on that passage, it means the Atlantic Ocean. And that is reasonable. Also, that also seems to be its usage in classical Greek texts. Tarshish was a place in Spain. It also applied to an area of the Atlantic Ocean. And also other texts indicate that it applies to England, because England also supplied the same metals, the tin and the silver, and so on in Cornwall. It was associated with Tarshish according to Ezekiel, and these metals were rare in those times, and you needed those metals. These metals were very important. The bronze is an alloy made out of tin and copper. Copper is quite frequent, but tin is very rare. And at one stage, most of the tin used came from Cornwall, came from Britain. Now they find in Israel, they find artifacts which they analysed in different ways, and they find that the tin there is often apparently derived from Cornwall, from Britain. So that is worth noting. And so Tarshish was a name applied to the Atlantic Ocean, and it says the ships of Tarshish, in other words, ships supplying the Atlantic Ocean, will bring the Israelites back. So the Israelites in the end times have to be somewhere in that area. So that's what we have. We have indications here, indications there, and we find the areas where they all come together. How do they say? Triangulation of the different sources. Yeah, you watch spy movies, or in the Second World War, they have use radar, and they have planes coming from here, planes coming from there. So they find where the lines come together. It's called triangulation. So the same thing where we have different sources, different hints of the Bible says they are here. The Bible says they are there. We find where the different hints all come together, we triangulate them. And they indicate areas that we identify as belong to those 10 tribes. especially the British Isles, North America, and western coastland of Europe, and the related nations. And Jeremiah says, 31:8, I will, behold, I'll bring them from the north country and gather from the ends, the coasts of the earth, the ends of the earth. Among them the blind and the lame, the woman with a child, and the one who labours with child together. A great throng shall return here. And people quoted this passage when they saw the Jews of Ethiopia returning, coming back. The Jews in a few years ago, the Jews in Ethiopia were in danger of being exterminated by the Sudanese and by the local Ethiopians, and the people from Israel, helped by America, managed to get them to Sudan, and with the help of the Americans and President Reagan, they flew them to Israel. Incidentally, President Reagan also helped get the Jews out of Russia and come to Israel, which helped the state of Israel to a great degree. And why I wanted to say this, because I showed pictures, you saw pictures of Ethiopians, Jews from Ethiopia returning, and there were women there giving birth on the plane, or the people there in all kinds of situations. And this fits the woman in labor, the woman with child, the description of Jeremiah about the returnees. Flying home like clouds, and also in Hosea, flying home like clouds in the sky, like doves returning to their cote. And this could only apply to our times, because in the past they didn't have airplanes until that airplanes saw the possibility of flying like clouds or like doves in the sky until now, until not long ago. So this is also indicative. Isaiah 24:14 also says that the people, when they return, they shall cry aloud from the west, from the sea. And again in Hosea 11:10, they shall walk after the Lord, they shall roar like a lion when he roars, and the sun shall come trembling from the west, Hosea 11:10. And Isaiah 49:12, surely these come from afar, look, these from the north and the west. And these from the land of Siddim, Isaiah 49:12. And so too, the Jews also will be involved. In Jeremiah 3:18 it says, in those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, shall come together out of the land of the north, the land that I have given as an inheritance to your fathers, see Jeremiah 3:18. They'll also be separate from Judah. They will not be together with Judah. See Isaiah 11:13. Even though today many Jews are in those areas, but they're not joined together, they're still separate, they dwell separately, they're not identified one with each other at the present. This will come, and Isaiah 49:13, 14, and 21, also Hosea 1:7, it will come, but it will not be immediate. They will be strangers to each other, even though they are known to each other. And this will all be resolved, and we shall live and see, God willing. And meanwhile, they shall be extremely numerous as the sands of the seas, the stars of the skies, the dust of the earth. This was a promise given unto them. They will enjoy agricultural plenty and mineral resources, and they will possess the gates of their enemies, that is strategic thoroughfares, as America does today and Britain did before her. And there are numerous other proofs, which we'll go into later at another time in more detail, each and every one of them.
Yair, do you
Yes.
see the Jews and the tribes connecting before the Exodus? Or is that going to happen simultaneously or after? Or is there any time sequence there?
So I'm not, we don't know how things will actually turn out, but the indications are we're also still working on the sources, but the indications are that the troubles will arise in the world. The lost 10 tribes will will be in a hard situation, difficult situation. They may be oppressed by others, they may not, we don't know. And then also Judah will be in a similar situation. And then the Messiah, son of Joseph, will arise, and he will lead the 10 tribes, and they will defeat their enemies. And he will also punish those who oppress Judah and initiate some type of reunification with Judah to some degree. And part of the 10 tribes will come back and settle in the land of Israel, or a portion of the land of Israel, or the lands adjoining Israel, such as Syria, Lebanon, referred to as Gilead and Bashan in the Bible, and so on. And then the Messiah, son of David, will come, and he will complete the process of bringing the tribes back and settling them in the land, and also enabling every Israelite to know to which tribe they pertain to, and so they will have the land of all of Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates to settle in, and they will rehabilitate the land, they will restore it. Apparently would have suffered much ecological damage to whatever has been done unto it. They will restore it. That is part of their tasks. And they will also possess their present countries, or the countries they're now living in will be considered part of the land of Israel. The holiness of the land of Israel will be extended also over them, according to rabbinical sources that we merited to come across and we have publicized. So that's what we have, and that is what we do. That is what we consider our task is to spread this knowledge, to reel this knowledge, to research it, to give details of the search to whoever wants to receive it. And God willing, the Lord Almighty will show us the way where to go from there. Will show us how to do that. To do there's a lot, and others will come along. And we'll see what is in store for us. And at all events, may Lord God of Israel bless you, look after you, and all the people of Israel. And thank you for being here.